gathered here to celebrate season 2 completion, and I'm super excited today. And so many amazing authors have joined me for this celebration, and I can't believe that I'm already done with season 2. And today we are celebrating the finale, the final episode, the 10th one. And we have with us Dr. Shalini Malik, Dipti Menon ma'am, Aparna Salvi, Natasha, and Dr. Balesh is also going to join soon. So thank you all for joining and being part of the celebration. I really feel privileged to have you on my last episode, the celebration episode. How was the day, all guys?
The day's been great, absolutely great, and being here makes it greater.
Absolutely, this is the best part of the evening. As I was just saying before that, I feel like we're in a party and all of us are just chatting. So some Pepsi and chips would be nice.
I know.
Thank you for having us here, Mona Lisa. Thank you for inviting us again.
It's my privilege, my pleasure, and I'm Mona Lisa Joshi. We are celebrating Mona Lisa's Talk Show's 10th episode, season 2 completion. And today we are taking up an interesting topic that's called writer's block. Is it a myth or real? And you might find plenty of information on internet, but we are going to discuss it today with some amazing authors here who might have had experienced this maybe sometime in their life, or like this is a writing journey and it happens, or maybe it hasn't happened with the writers present here. Let's listen to their part of story, what they feel. So Dr. Shalini, tell me, have you ever experienced writer's block, or do you believe in it? Is it a myth for you, or it's real?
I wish I had the time to experience writer's block. See, I won't pretend that writing is easy. It's not. I'm sure all of us do feel very stuck, and we feel that our output is low, or the words are not coming. Definitely that happens. I'm not going to pretend that we just sit down and it flows. So there are those moments and there are those days also when that happens. But, I think that because for all of us, we are holding jobs and trying to write, I think it is a luxury we indulge in. So at that time when that happens, we have to be ready to deal with that, our own strategies, which, I'm sure we'll talk about. So yes, it happens. It is a reality for every writer. And I'm sure like all my friends here will agree that it's also very frustrating. To want to write, to want to tell a story, and we feel stuck. So of course it happens. And let's let everyone else share their views.
Dipti ma'am, have you experienced writer's block ever?
It's no myth. It's definitely there. It is there. But then, like Shalini said, I think we're all so busy that we really don't have time to think about it. A day starts at 9 and finishes at 5:30. After that, you have the rest of your work to do. So when you finally get down to writing, if you think about writer's block, then even that little bit of precious time is going to go out of the window. So I think what I do feel that yes, there are times when I struggle, but there's one magic word that always helps me to write, and that is deadline. I've never missed a deadline. However late it is, I might sit at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night, but I will catch that deadline. Unlike the early bird catching a worm, this is this poor old worm catching a deadline. But I kind of managed to do it.
No, I've seen you. You've been continuously writing for Block Chatter and all, so many other contests you keep writing. So I don't think writer's block really exists for you. The way you write and your pace.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that, but I try to disguise it, really try to disguise it, but it's definitely there. But I love writing, so I think that takes care of a lot of it.
Okay. And Natasha, what about you? Last time you were saying I'm pro at procrastination.
Oh God, yes. I'm still pro at procrastination. And it's a roadblock. It hits, some of us. So sometimes, as Shalini and Deepti very correctly said, that it doesn't flow that well. So when I feel that, the words are stilted or the staccato, I spend my time in doing research. So, and I'm hoping, which is what I'm actually experiencing right now. I just have so much work that I'm not getting time to sit down and write. And so when I'm not getting time, all I do is I do research. So writer's block is not a myth. It's a reality. It affects all of us. It affects us in different ways. Some don't. Varying degrees of the of it. But yeah, it's a myth, not a myth. And I'm going through it one right now.
And Aparna, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think when everybody has agreed, I can't be the odd one out. But yes, I agree that writer's block does happen. And maybe I can be blocked for a particular topic or a particular subject that I'm writing on. So I switch to different prompts. I might feel writing a story challenging. So I go to content writing, something that is happening on a regular basis. So for a particular prompt or a particular subject, I might feel blocked, and then I would just go about, move and check something else if there is happening, some another prompt that is helping my creative juices flow. When I wrote my first book, that time I was blocked for 6 months because a particular character's voice did not move out of my head, and I could not write another character. So I had to wait for, gradually, like 4, 5, 6 months till that particular character. I had forgotten how he speaks or how he behaves. And that time my work was blocked. Till then I wrote few short stories, and then I gradually came back to writing the novel. So I think, yes, it is a reality. And as Dipti ma'am said, that we all work, we have a full-time job, and the stresses of that particular job, handling a family, they keep creeping into your mind, and sometimes even family members keep creeping into your time and space while you're writing. So you do get blocked and you feel frustrated, but it is definitely not a myth. It is a reality that all of us are facing.
And I'll just take a moment here to welcome Dr. Balesh ma'am. She has joined. I think she might be having some net issue, but she will join, and we will also listen to her part of experience. But in between, I would like to share that I'm the biggest one who is suffering the writer's block right now. Or maybe I can put it this way, that I have actually taken a break. I'm enjoying the phase, because PR is also something that we have to keep doing. So it's not always you should write, and like book lani hai, and you just keep on writing and you bring out another book. It's sometimes you should enjoy the journey of the book as well. So take a break also, that is also required, because I was reading on one of the international writers. She's a lady. I'm not able to recall her name, but she has written that whenever she has experienced writer's block, she would go to gardening, cooking, doing like mundane things, and it brings back the creative juices. So you should take the time as well when it happens, instead of getting frustrated. I feel we do get, because we are creative people and we need to get out those emotions through some word or something. Hi, Dr. Balesh, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I got late. I couldn't join now. I managed.
It's good to have you today on the season 2 completion celebration. And we were just talking about this topic called writer's block. So I would like to know your thoughts on it. Have you experienced this as well?
For the writer's block? Yeah, do I have to talk about the writer's block and how to overcome it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's not a myth, it's a reality. And what the 2 or 3 things help me a lot in this while I write. One is I follow the 40-20 rule. So if you give yourself a very short milestones for yourself, which means I'll write for 40 minutes, then I give myself a break of 20. So I do that 8 times in a day, so that covers 7 hours, I feel that really works, because even if you're thirsty or hungry, then you go in that 20 minutes. Or you need to take a call, you don't touch in those sacred 40 minutes when you're writing. That's what I do. Switch off all my phone, my social media, my WhatsApp, all that is on silent. I feel that worked for me a lot.
The social media is a distraction. How many of you would agree with this?
Absolutely.
All of us, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and this brings in
And
that
another
very.
thing, like another
Please go
thing I
ahead, ma'am.
wanted to say, being since we all are women here, like as Virginia Woolf said, there aren't so many women authors. House, the children, the husband, the work, and the writing it. And you need a room of your own. So I feel if you
There's a net issue on her side. So, Dr. Shalini, there's this very famous thing that's going around these days. It's called FOMO. Like social media brings this FOMO thing.
Yeah.
So, would you agree it happens? It's kind of, that one thing is that writer's block is happening. On the other hand, we experience FOMO ki arey yaar, this event is happening, that event is happening,
Yes.
somebody's book launch is happening. So, have you experienced the fear?
See, definitely. I think all of us know, and we try to stay away from that, but it's not possible to be unaffected. And with social media, it seems like people are churning out books after books, and as if they have never suffered from writer's block. So definitely, it goes beyond FOMO. It can get quite stressful. Because you feel what's wrong with me. I am not getting any output. The whole world is writing, publishing, launching. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's putting out their best on social media. No one makes a post saying, "Hey, I've got writer's block," right? So yes, this is very, very difficult. We keep telling the children not to be so much on social media, but we are equally at fault.
And Dipti ma'am, what about you?
Oh, FOMO, yes, definitely. I think everybody in our family has FOMO. I think that's kind of inherited or genetic or whatever. And, I find there are two kinds of FOMO. One is creative FOMO and the other is social FOMO. Now, creative, yes, when you see everybody else writing, you say, oh my God, why am I not writing? But social FOMO is worse. You have these huge weddings, big weddings. I mean, how can you not know what's happening there? And then you have some function happening. How can you miss out? So, you are stuck between two kinds of FOMO. And finally, I think you shut social FOMO down and then concentrate on the creative FOMO, because I think that is what gives you more satisfaction. But yes, FOMO is not a myth. It exists.
And Aparna, what about you? I think we have taken two sides of coin. We were about to discuss this writer's block. Now FOMO we are discussing, but let's go on. It's interesting.
Right. I just want to make
Aparna,
one
please.
note. We call Aparna the
Please,
FOMO queen.
Okay. You know that. Wow. Aparna, I have to hear your story now.
Because two of my best buddies were first initially staying in Pune. So now, obviously, one of them, she has shifted. And these two girls, every time they meet, they will flood our social media with photographs. You tell me, how am I supposed to resist the urge to sit quiet? But yes. And I think Dipti ma'am should write a self-help book on how to avoid FOMOs or type of FOMOs. Because as we are chatting right now, I could not stop myself from going and seeing how many people are watching us live.
Oh.
So from my phone, I went to Facebook and I'm checking how many people are watching us live, and I shared it on my Facebook page immediately. So that is how real FOMO is. And as real humans, you're not a human if you don't have FOMOs.
Aparna, a question there. How many people are watching us? How many people are watching us live, Aparna? We would all love to know.
No, I couldn't find it out because
I think we will end up having FOMO here now. Don't worry, guys. This will go. The traction starts coming later also. So even if people are not watching it right now, gets the traction later, because touchwood, all of the videos are reaching some 1.7k, 1.8k views, so it's going good. So thanks to all of you. Your fan following is also good. You people are like really celebrities here.
No fan following. These are friends. These are friends.
Friends.
Friends are the first fans, no? I guess.
Yes, of course, always.
So Natasha, बहुत चुपचाप हो आप, बताओ कुछ FOMO.
I actually am the odd woman out. I don't get FOMO, so I have not.
I'm with you. I'm with you in this. I'll tell you later. Let you finish first.
It's my husband he's a FOMO type. So
I always wonder whether she has a bot quality. She's a robot. The way she
I'm actually alien. I don't get affected by FOMO. And my husband that उसने उसकी ये actress ने यहाँ काम किया ये ना, I'm like okay. And then most of my questions ये कौन है? That's my starting question. ये अच्छा ये actress ये कौन है? They say अरे ये उस फिल्म में आया था सर. So I'm not really very driven by FOMO, but I liked Deepti's categorization of social and creative. So creative FOMO I definitely do suffer from, and so if I feel that someone is getting their books out or getting their stories out, so that sort of thing, I also must do it next. But social FOMO, no, not really. I am an alien that, as Aparna very rightly said.
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Balesh, what about you?
I think I don't really get FOMO because I'm not a very social media person. But I like Deepti's thing, that creative FOMO, that I get. When I read on Facebook or whenever I do go, I read, oh, this person has written this person. Then I do get a FOMO, and that actually helps me with my block. So I've said I better rush to my writing table and write something. So that's a good point she made, I think.
Healthy competition, actually, I would say, not jealousy.
Yeah, there's healthy competition.
Yeah, definitely healthy competition is always required. It keeps us on our, our creative juices flowing. But yeah, it should not be taken so seriously that if one person is bringing her book or his book out, that we also have to do it. I think we should enjoy the journey. That's what's important. True. And these days, I have started experiencing JOMO, joy of missing out. And I'm loving it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really peaceful, it's really calming, and it doesn't give me that rush key, I have to do this, that. Yeah, I'm doing it on my pace, at my pace, and I'm enjoying the process. And that's what I'm enjoying this journey so far. Like season 2 has completed. I never expected it would come this far. When I started, I thought, ek do authors, they might come. But thanks to you people.
Authors love publicity and free publicity.
Yeah, last evening only I was having this conversation. She's also a theatre artist. So her name is Devika Das, and I was talking to her. She has won 2 national awards for her short movies as well. So I was just talking to her that, how is it when it comes to marketing? She was saying many things. You have to put money, this, that. And I said, Mona Lisa's talk show is always for free. Anytime. So yeah, this place is always for free, and we can always come talk and share our thoughts, and for future events also. I'm also doing YouTube live through my public blog, so you can be part of that community. I'm doing poetry events, readings, and all. So if you wish to join, now let's come to your books and let's do some reading. Listen to your book excerpts. Who would like to start? Dr. Balesh, please, you can start with your reading. Have you been able to hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I was just saying that if you wish to read something from your book and tell a little about your book, that would be lovely.
Okay. Natasha, you want to go first? Yours is the latest book.
No, then that way Aparna will go first. Because I am right now scrambling to find my PDF to read. So I was trying to appear like, let me get that thing done at least. No, I know. I think Shalini's book is the latest one.
Latest one. Okay, Shalini.
Yeah.
Please
Okay,
start. Yeah.
And I've pushed her under the bus.
Shalini, you can start. Yours is the latest. Let's go by the date of publication.
She'll get it from me on WhatsApp. Okay. So this is my first book, Starts from the Bottomless Sea. This came out in 22. Touchwood, it was very well received, and I request all of you who've not yet read it to please pick it up, because I know that all of you will enjoy it. I know that you will truly enjoy the stories that are here. So I will read something from my new book, but I do want to say this about the first one, is that this is a book which is very different from the conventional romance books, and that is probably why it has touched so many. The second book, The Way Home, this was released this year in April. I don't know whether it's the latest of all of our books or not, but this is the book. This is very different from the first one, and that was something that was always on my mind when we were releasing this, because how it would be received, the relationship is different, and all those kind of things were a very important factor in my mind. But then, as all of us know, the story is what we want to tell, and we are just driven by the story. And touchwood, this is also well received. This book is touching on, I'll just read a little bit from it, but before that, this is touching on a lot of basic life challenges, mostly by youngsters, but they are universal. So it has a very strong emphasis on mental health. And the protagonists, there are 3 main protagonists, so which 2 are doctors. So, a little excerpt from here.
Shalini, can you be a little loud?
Yeah, sure.
Shalini, can you be a little loud? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if I may make a suggestion, can we mute all of us? Can we mute?
Sure.
So that we can hear her.
So, am I audible now? Okay. So, this part that I'm reading, one of the protagonists, Roy, is thinking back to a therapy session which he had gone to, and he's applying what he had done in those therapy sessions to cope with the situation in his life. He had gone to therapy reluctantly, but this is where he realized that it really helps him. So, this is what the therapist had told him. There is no rule book for feelings, right, which tell us what to feel. For each of us, our feelings are valid. We needn't compare them with anyone or anything. Instead of questioning your feelings, try to sit with them. Try not to push them away and allow yourself to feel them. You may find that it is possible to hold space for even the contradictory feelings of gratitude and sorrow simultaneously. Doctors quantify everything, don't they? Roy is also a doctor, and the therapist has brought in his work to relate to him. There is even a scale for physical pain, but such a hierarchy does not exist for emotional pain. Grief is felt differently by each one of us, and it is not a contest. We don't need to decide if one person's grief is more or less than someone else's. You lost so much. Your childhood, your friendships, your dreams, even love. The good things in your life are a blessing, no doubt, but they don't have to be a foil to your loss. Loss is loss, pain is pain. Feeling it and mourning it is as important as being grateful for the good stuff. So, thank you. Thank you.
That was lovely.
Thank you so much.
Now, if we are going by the date of publication, I am not aware whose book has come next. Who's the latest one here?
I think Aparna or Natasha. They came out at the same time, right?
Okay. So, Natasha, would you like to read? Have you found your PDF yet? You're mute. You're on mute.
I'm still trying to find the paragraph. I think if Aparna is ready, let her go.
Aparna will carry on. Please, Aparna, start.
I thought seniors would go first, but okay. So this is how the book looks like. Yeah. It is called as The Labyrinth of Silence, and it is divided into three parts, three characters. First being Mukhi, second is Girish, and third is Kashi. So the book basically deals with how different people, they find trauma in silence. Some people find peace in silence. Some people use silence to manipulate. Some people use silence as their words. So it is a story basically of four individuals, but the fourth character makes, a chemo kind of thing in between the three characters. It deals with the two social themes. I would not like to reveal what those two social themes are, but here is what I would like to read from the book. After a lot of prancing around, when they bumped into that magnificent creature, the jamun tree, Amma's demeanor changed. The giant tree swallowed her chirpy attitude, and a dull gloom spread across her face. Her silence was palpable in these moments. When she stood gazing at the tree with her chin up, her lips quivered, wordlessly moving as if chanting a long forgotten prayer. Her fingers trembled as if holding a hot, scalding cup of tea. Her bare feet, adorned by silver toe rings, dug deep into the soil, and her flat eyebrows knit together, wrinkling the large kumkum she wore on her glabella. For a few moments, she stood transfixed. This avatar of her mother was even rarer than the playful Mukhi. As a child, Kashi would steal Amma's frozen moments to relish mud-laden jamuns that had kissed the earth. This luxury was otherwise prohibited to her, and Amma's horrified state would be a golden opportunity. When she would defrost, their playtime would decidedly be over. When she was younger, Kashi believed it was her eating of those dirty jamuns that infuriated Amma. But later, as she graduated from a peppy girl to a sensitive teenager, it dawned on to her that there was more to the story. What it was still a mystery. Thank you.
Now your book is becoming more mysterious, even more mysterious for me. I have it and I'll start reading it soon.
Thank you. Please do.
Yeah. Natasha, have you found your PDF yet?
Yes, I have. I'm ready. This time I'm ready. Okay, so my book.
If you have not, then I have one ready, okay? If you have not, I have one ready.
No, I haven't. So this is my book. It touches upon the horrors of partition, but it gives a very gendered view of partition. There exists a lot of literature that deals with the horrors of partition, but it has never been told from the prisms of a woman and the kind of trauma that women experienced. And the book essentially explores something called the Rescue Restoration Act, which was put into action by Pakistan and Indian governments getting together. And they said that women who've been kidnapped and forcibly made to convert would be brought back to their countries of their original religion. And it's always easier to pass a law, but when it comes to ground reality, men would never give up women because they were spoils of the war. And to actually get these women out of their forced conversions and their forced kidnappings, a lot of social workers would go undercover, and they would actually have to go to those places, get the information of the women, and pass it on to the respective army, that was Indian or Pakistani army, and they would actually conduct the actual rescue. So the book is based completely on true stories. My parents were migrants, and of course they haven't told me these stories, but I've come to know them through my other relatives. And every single aspect of the book is fictionalized, but it is based on true reality. It's based on true events. And what I would like to read is a discussion about Fulkari, the embroidery of Punjab, is done with a certain kind of thread, and only a certain kind of expertise. When you reach a certain kind of expertise, you move on to the traditional pat thread, which is the silk thread. And so I'm using Fulkari as a metaphor to explain. It may not make a lot of sense, but in this hurry, this is the best paragraph that I could come up with. The conversation starts like this. My design has two separate pieces that need to unite in a cohesive unit despite their brokenness, a union of two shards, if you like. Prerna nodded, her eyes glinted. That's an ambitious project. And what kind of thread would you use for it? A surprised expression crossed Santosh's face. I've moved to an expert level, so now I use the traditional pat thread to embroider. So it's a silken yarn that you're plying with, right? Yes, Fulkari is woven by silken threads. Santosh's confusion increased. Prerna placed a hand on Santosh's transient hand, stilling its movements. We shouldn't use any other threads, right? Santosh met Prerna's gaze. No, we don't mix threads. Fulkari dictates silken threads, and only silken threads will do. The gloss and the polish of the piece comes from it. Prerna asks, what happens if you use a cotton thread? Realization dawned and dulled Santosh's eyes. If we use cotton threads for Fulkari, it loses its beauty. The appeal lies in the silk yarn. Fulkari, the jewel of the Punjab, demands a certain kind of thread. Nothing else will ever match it, isn't it, Santosh? Santosh's teeth gnawed at her lower lip as she contemplated. Yes, Prerna ji, you should only use silken yarn. Any other kind would strip it of its beauty and purpose. I'm so glad you taught me this lesson, Santosh. When we go about following a certain style of embroidery, we should ensure we meet all its expectations, else we disrupt its beauty. Santosh's fingers nimbly pulled and pushed the needle through the fabric with no enthusiasm. I understand. Some embroideries fall apart if we break the pattern. Why don't you try another design, Santosh? Perhaps this one isn't suitable for you. Santosh nodded as she started undoing stitches until the canvas returned to its original blank self as she pulled the threads in reverse. You are right, Prerna ji. This wasn't meant for me. Those who have read the book would kind of get the context, but basically it just talks about Fulkari, which the topic I'm very close to, and I'm sure Shalini would agree how much I've eaten her head about it.
I can actually see Dr. Shalini smiling all throughout your reading, so I can understand that she has read the book.
No, I have not only read the book. I had the honor of being at her book launch, where both of us actually wore Fulkari dupattas, and we had
amazing.
We had this most amazing. She's not told her personal part. I'm going to tell it for her if you allow me. So she had this Fulkari dupatta, which had been embroidered by, I think, her grandmother, and that is like a family heirloom. That is like a family treasure. So she had brought that to Delhi for her launch, and we used that, and both of us draped Fulkari dupattas. So because we were so, just so connected to the book, and although I am a Punjabi, but I did not know anything what she's told about Fulkari. I learned from the book only. So that is why I was feeling as if she's reading out from my book. That feeling comes, for some books, some people. So that is why.
And you're excellent. Yeah, please, Natasha.
No, I was just telling her the design on the cover is actually from my great grandmother's Fulkari piece, which is about 150 years old, which she had made for my grandmother, my nani mother. So it's sort of come down to us. I've stolen all the pieces from my sister. I told her, you don't need it. You don't even care about them. So I have all the 6 pieces.
Lucky you.
Okay, I'm going to go on mute now.
And your book is actually inspiring me to do one live on this topic, like heirloom and lineage stories. I think we will come up with so much.
India has so much. I mean, and I've only brought about just one part of Punjab and just one part of the Punjab tradition. There's so much from the north. There's so much from the east. Oh man, it's just amazing. Our handloom.
So we'll do it next time for sure. Okay, so Dipti ma'am, what would you like to read? Which book? Because you are the one who is the fastest here. Book after book after book.
Thank you for saying so. No. I think I will stick to my latest book. It's called The Web of Shadows. I don't know whether it's clear. And this is my 10th book, and this is my 4th shadow book. So I've written in all kind of genres, but I think I love being a thriller writer. In fact, my husband sleeps with one eye open, as I always say, because he doesn't know what I'm up to half the time. So this book, The Web of Shadows, is the 4th in the Shadow series, and I had to do a lot of research because it deals with a brothel in Mumbai. Now, Mumbai I've only come to very, very rarely. I used to live in a place called Devlali because my husband was in the army and he did a course in Devlali, which is a very, very beautiful place. Very close to Pune. Actually, it is a triangle, Bombay, Devlali and Pune. And Natasha, I was born in Pune, by the way. Just an aside.
You're on mute, Natasha.
Okay, I said I'm born in Bombay. Pune is my adopted city.
Okay. Yeah. So the book it travels from a brothel in Mumbai to Kerala, where there is this family called the Namboodiripad family, which deals with tantric arts, the ancient tantric arts. So what is it that connects this brothel and a girl's death in the brothel to this family down south? That is what I've tried to explore in this book of mine called The Web of Shadows. And actually, I did have to research because I had no idea about brothels, and I had no idea about the Namboodiripad, the tantric version of the Namboodiripad. So there was a lot of research that went in here. And you know how it is. You need to have your facts absolutely clear before you start, using them. And even if it is fiction, I think you need to get your facts right. So it did take a lot of time, but I thoroughly enjoyed writing it. And you know how it is when all the threads come together. I think that is the most most satisfying bit, when everything comes together and people say, oh, okay, I think it works. I think that really makes a difference. So I'm just going to read a short bit about, there is this very powerful lady. Actually, she's a transgender. I just call her Madam. And she is like, a very forbidding person. She's the one who started the brothel. And sorry? I thought I heard something.
No, your voice was echoing.
So this is how it goes. Madam sat in her boudoir, forbidding as ever. Nothing ruffled her, for she was used to these raids. So many policemen had come and gone. Her rooms had been ransacked so often. Yet, after the stink had died down and the story forgotten, she would get her regulars to redo the rooms, reinstall the cameras, and the whole cycle would start again. Madam, what do you have to say about this sudden death? Gokhale asked. He was the constable in charge, and he needed to tread warily. His superiors had warned him not to ruffle Madam's feathers. She was highly influential and could get all of them transferred with one flick of her bejeweled fingers. Young man, has anyone told you how handsome you are? She purred as Gokhale blushed crimson. You could be in movies. Thank you, madam, he stuttered. You would need to tell me about the young girl who was working for you. How did she die? Madam smiled, her eyes crinkling in malice. That young girl was a wonderful dancer. She came from a small village in Kerala, all the way from the south. Can you imagine? Beautiful she was. Her eyes turned reflective, almost sad. And the young man had no idea that he was being played like an instrument. I loved her like my own daughter. When she first came, she was shy and beautiful. We trained her to dance and she was a natural. Maybe it was the vulnerability in her that attracted the protective instincts of the men who watched her dance. Not one of them wanted to break through it or harm her in any way. And yet, she's dead, the young man said almost slyly, almost in a whisper. Madam's face changed. It was as if he was watching a movie. Her eyes turned into pinpoints of rage, her face flushed, and there was an aura of menace that suddenly enveloped her. Gone was the benign grace, the gentleness. Her voice came out like a pistol shot, as harsh as he shuddered for a moment. "What are you suggesting, young man? How dare you make such insinuations? I could have you removed from Mumbai forever, you know." Every word was crystal clear, vindictive, and he knew that he was treading on thin ice here. He tried to retrace his steps, knowing that every word he spoke could land him in further danger. "I'm sorry, madam. That wasn't what I meant at all. I was merely stating a fact. My superiors wanted me to find out all I could about the case." Madam smiled. Her lips constricted in a cruel line which was more frightening than her ire. "Go and tell them what you have found. The girl was loved by all. However, she had a streak of mental instability. Maybe she was bipolar, as she suffered from terrible mood swings. Go tell your superiors that she had no enemies here. We are like one happy family." Thank you.
You read very well, Deepthi. Very well read.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a fan of her reading. I can't tell you how much I love it.
Thank you, Shalini.
You must get out your own audiobooks, you know.
That's what I was about to
Audiobooks.
say.
You should get out.
And you can read on your own.
You
You
sounded
can
as
read
if
on
you
your own.
recited it.
I would love to. I would love to. Never thought about it, but yes, I would love to. I just love
Yeah.
reading and writing, you know. So,
Have you
Thank you.
worked on
Thank you.
stage, Deepthi?
pardon?
Have you worked on stage?
Yes, in college, yes, I have worked on
I'm
stage.
sure you have a background.
My father was a director in the, when he was in the army, and my mother acted. So I think those
Oh.
genes
So
are
you have a background. Uh-huh.
a tiny background. It's not, not much of it, but I just love theatre. I love literature. So I think both together, it's a very pleasant blend.
True.
Thank you for
Your
making
voice
my.
modulation. I was hooked to your voice modulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Thank
Very
you so
good.
much.
Excellent.
Thank
Deepthi, I have a question.
Yes,
Which, I mean, you mentioned there were 4 in your series, right? So I'm looking at them right now on Amazon. Which one does one start with?
See, the first one is called Shadow in the Mirror.
Okay.
That's the first one, and that came out in 2018. And and then after that, the other two, the next two they're both ebooks, and they are short stories. They are thriller short stories, both anthologies. And this is again a novel. So the first and the last are novels. So if you go in the same order, I mean, not that it makes a difference, because there is nothing connecting the 4. Just the fact that they are all shadowy. That's all.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Natasha has a FOMO of missing on good books, so she will not leave good books.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. Books must be read.
And Natasha, to congratulate you. You have won
yes, I
Vancouver
forgot
Tales.
about- yes, I forgot about that. Oh yes, cool.
So you have
Anyway,
won the
I
first
must tell you,
publication.
I must tell you, I read a post today on Twitter by somebody. They said writing is only 20% of the job. 80% it's marketing and selling it. Do you agree? Because I was very upset about it.
I think
We don't have to worry, ma'am, because we have Mona Lisa, ma'am. We have people like her who support the community, so we don't have to worry that much.
I know.
I'm only one person, so I don't know how much I would be able to support you all. But yeah, I'm doing my bit. Yeah, of course. And I'm happy
The
that you.
ratio is wrong. It's not 80-20. It's could be reverse. But yes, you have to get out there. But that ratio, no way. I don't agree. What about the rest of us?
I think 40-60, I think, somehow.
I know. Even I thought 20 was too little for a writer's contribution.
Yeah, that is a little
It's too little, yeah.
You know, some of the best writers don't really do any PR. and they're out
True.
there. And
Exactly.
the others do a lot of it and get out there as well. So I don't think there's any harm in either. Each to their own, I feel. You know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, true.
I know.
For I guess for indie authors, for self-published authors, it remains a challenge because they have to do a lot of marketing. It remains a challenge for them. So that's why I feel it can be said, 40-60. Until and unless you have a bigger circle and, like friends and peers supporting you. But still, you have to reach to the market where actually books are getting sold. So that remains a difficult thing.
I feel even with the traditional publisher, it's still very difficult to be out in the shops. It's like every time you go to a bookshop, I find it, my book is right in the last corner, the darkest corner of the bookshop, where nobody will go,
That's why we have to build a community like this. More and more people should, come and support each other. That's how we can grow and,
True,
lift
true.
each other.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel
Yes.
community building is required.
Actually,
So I'm soon planning.
Go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, Natasha, please go ahead.
I was just trying to draw a point that nowadays, how many of us? I mean, I completely believe on an online world. So, how many of us really step into a bookstore to buy a book? I mean, while I was talking to when Deepthi was reading, I went on Amazon and I was going to order her book. So I understand Dr. Balesh's point is that selling a book in a bookstore is now so much more difficult. And honestly, I haven't even gone and seen my books in a bookstore, so I'm a fine one to talk. I haven't gone myself. I mean, I will go someday. But yeah, I get
I am behind this woman's back. Natasha, go. You have to go for book signing. You have to do event. But she will not just get out of her pajamas. And
I'm wearing pajamas. I'm wearing very nice sweatshirt and pants.
I think Aparna, you have to bring the book to her so that she does that.
Idea. And I think what Deepthi says makes a lot of sense that I mean, it's actually I find it very saddening that you have to also write the book and sell it. I thought writing was good
It's
enough.
too difficult.
I
Yeah.
know it is. I know, and you get these people who contact you and say, "Ma'am, we will write 100 reviews for you."
I know.
Really? Thank you. One review would be good enough if you could be kind enough to do it. I don't want 100.
Exactly,
You're going to
yeah.
say the same thing, no?
The content of your book was so interesting; it caught my eye. So all of them have that script.
Yeah.
So initially, I was
And they
excited.
don't
I was
even know the
like,
title
wow.
of your book.
Yeah.
They don't even know the title of your book. Huh?
Yeah, and they all call me sir.
So, why? Your name doesn't even sound like a sir. No?
Huh?
Your name doesn't even sound like a sir's. But why?
I have absolutely no idea. It's a lifetime mystery for me.
Unless they think you're a nat.
Actually, it's expecting too much from authors. Authors can't do all that. No way.
Right, absolutely.
It's just, I think the whole world has moved towards marketing, and that's what. And they expect the author to write and market and publish and do whatever and write the next book too.
When do you write the next book? I mean,
And then
a lot
make
of my
reels.
time goes in reels. It's so frustrating. And I feel the
Yeah.
traction that you get from it, the ROI is so poor that, I mean, I don't know
Zero,
if
is
I've generated any sales from it. I mean, I've
I
got
know.
followers, but my account is open anyway, so I get a lot of followers. These random people keep coming and joining, so it makes no difference. But the ROI
And
is,
half of them are doctors and pilots. Doctors and pilots are more interested.
Yeah.
Very-
Really handsome ones.
Fake
Very
profile.
handsome ones.
Oh,
and
yes.
all of them
absolutely.
are in army and they're at some rig and their daughter is alone with the nanny and then they need money because they've run out of somehow the bank has got blocked, card has got blocked, and then please give me $1,000 and I'll buy food for my daughter. I'm like, what on that?
I know.
Yeah.
I get a lot of doctors from Europe. Very handsome. Each one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
People
So
forget
do I.
writers
So do
block.
I. Half the time I don't, I mean, you look at that and say, how on earth did this guy even, locate you somewhere in India, somewhere in Ireland and Belfast and Russia and surgeons? Shalini, a lot of surgeons. Can you believe it?
Yes.
The doctors don't have time. These doctors apparently have a lot of time.
I don't know. I cannot make workers.
On a serious
I have no
They
idea.
are actually bots, so fake profiles.
Yeah,
I
fake profiles.
actually know someone who developed a friendship with someone like this. She was going through a very rough time, a personal time. And I mean, the person on the other side, we don't even know whether it was a man or a woman. And they told her they created this whole relationship kind of a thing. And then he said, I'm going to fly to meet you. And then he got stuck at the airport and she actually transferred 50,000-60,000.
Oh my God.
My God, that is
That
so sad.
actually happened. I know this lady, and I mean, for whatever reason, she was doing it without telling people at home. So she couldn't even share that with her husband and all that stuff. Really, so
Very
it's
sad.
very, yeah. So they're just looking out for, I think, people with women DPs, and they'll just keep. It's really something. But yeah. But on that note, I think this is a good opportunity to scold Natasha for not going to the bookstore. Natasha, the browsing experience is good.
Shalini, I think you're not clear. Shalini, shall we just again mute? I think when all of us mute, I think that would be better.
So, while your publishers are going to keep telling you that all the sales, most of the sales are from Amazon, and Amazon is the only thing that counts, and that's why we don't spend money, and blah blah blah. I think every publisher gives us the same thing. I don't know about sales, but the browsing experience from a bookshop is unparalleled because you cannot browse on Amazon. So, like Dr. Balesh said, if her book is not visible, then it's not going to get picked up, right? How much word of mouth will an author do? So that limitation is there. I mean, I don't, I'm not ready to give up on the bookstore thing. It may not lead to sales, but reading that blurb and picking up the book is what counts, right?
Books, bookstores, libraries. I mean, most of our generation has grown up reading libraries. So the thrill of for me, though I don't read paperback as much now, but even now when I enter a book, my husband's like, you're like a child in a candy land. For me, those books, it's just, they call out to me, all of them. And sadly, I can't answer all of their calls, but yeah.
I just add to it that what Natasha and Shalini said is bookstores, libraries, and literature festivals where there are where the publishers put up stalls and where writers where authors can go interact with their readers, give them a signed copy. So I think these are the three places where apart from Amazon we have scope to market or talk about our books. So literature festivals also, if you get invited to, I think we shouldn't miss being on a panel. They give you a lot of opportunity to talk about your book. And I think Balesh Man's reading now remains, she has to read out from her book.
Exactly.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. So my book is a memoir. It's not really my autobiography or my memoir. It's not about my life, but these are true stories from my clinic. And I finished 40 years. So this book spans the 40 years. So it sees the socioeconomic status of a country, of the people who lived in the country. So it covers very important parts of India's economy because it starts from 1983 to 2020-22. So which means India, we all know, has undergone so many important changes, especially economic. Like in 94, I think the liberalization of India happened. That changed everything for the people. So, and being a GP, I was a GP in a rural area on the suburbs of Delhi. And just because by default I was there every single day, so I observed it. And all the stories, like I've written, that I didn't need to watch TV or to read the newspapers because I was seeing it right there in my clinic. I was getting the bride who had just been burnt an hour ago. She's still smoking. Her flesh is still smoking. She's lying on my table. And the husband and the mother-in-law, the sister-in-law, they're exchanging glances. And they're saying, oh, by accident she got burned. But I can see her eyes. She's looking at me. She's about to die, but she's still alive. And she's looking at me. I know they're lying, all of them, you know. Then I've seen rapes brought to my table. It would come in the newspaper the next day. But she's there at my table, a 3-year-old. The father gets her limp in his arms. And this was a very highly publicized case. The guard had raped this girl in a farmhouse, and the farmhouse happened to be next to my clinic. And I was the first person who saw her within 10 minutes, and the girl was dead already. Then I have seen drugs. I have seen domestic violence. That was the most hurtful. Like the wife comes, she's hurt all over, especially in the private parts. And nobody admits, she says, oh, I fell down by accident. The husband is sitting out. He'll hit her again if she takes his name. So she just says, oh, I fell on a tap. And it's all silence. I have to treat her in silence. I can't question her. So that is very frustrating. So I will just read some, I'm just giving you a background of my stories. They're all based in a village, and each thing is so true because, and one thing I was lucky that I didn't have to do research because everything was there in front of me, you know. So I'll just read out something from here. So this is something like a more pleasant part. I didn't want to read any gruesome thing. So a visit to my clinic was an excuse for a social outing, and the waiting room became a social club for the villagers to meet and greet each other and natter about their work, families, and their crops. They gathered in my clinic for a chat, which at most times did not involve a medical consultation. Most private clinics and larger public hospitals never encourage people clubbing in their waiting room and would find it irksome. But I loved the camaraderie and the family scenes in my waiting room. I marveled at the simple laughter and happiness that emanated from these crowds. They were just simple farmers and villagers, you know. So it was good for me. They sat in family groups, at times with their legs folded comfortably under them, faces illuminated with love. Especially warmed my heart when my waiting room became a rendezvous to invite and meet married daughters who resided in far-off villages. Because in those times, the girls could not come and visit their parents as often as they liked. So they made it an excuse that she's coming to show to me, and they could meet her daughter. You know, so that was very heartwarming. And there were unwritten but firm rules in place for married girls. They could not visit the parental home without permission of the mother-in-law. At times, years went by without a visit to her parents. Ironically, they were allowed to visit my clinic as a visit to the doctor raised no eyebrows. Also, no mother-in-law wanted a sick workhorse. They wanted them to be healthy. Otherwise, she's useless for them. The moment the mother heard that her daughter was visiting me, the whole maternal gang would come right in the morning and camp in my waiting till the dear daughter arrived. The joy in the girl's eyes when she saw her brothers, her father, and her old mother, and a few neighbors, that was unparalleled. The entire maternal gang looking at her, with loving and longing eyes. The mother would feed her bajra rotis smeared with ghee and laddus she had got for her. The father would pour the fresh buttermilk in the clay cups from the gallons he carried on his tractor. A happy family sitting with cups of buttermilk, sipping and talking, murmuring sweet nothings, filled my clinic with joy.
Lovely. So, Dr. Balesh, that was really lovely. And you know what? I have to pick so many of your books yet. I'll do it slowly, please bear with me. But I'm doing it at my pace. As you have seen that I'm reading all the books of the authors I've interviewed. Okay, so it's 1 hour. So now we have to conclude. And I hope that you will stay connected and do many events, many virtual online gatherings. in the future as well. And thank you so much for joining me today for the celebration episode. I'm so grateful to you all. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you. We had a
Bye.
lovely time.
Thank you. Bye.
Lovely meeting all of you. Yes,
Bye.
lovely meeting all of you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
That's the Korean thing. Korean.
Yeah.
Bye.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So this was our last episode of season 2. We just celebrated the completion episode, and more authors and poets would be coming for season 3. So stay connected, follow the page, and also follow my YouTube channel and Spotify. Bye all. Have a great evening.